Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It's Thursday. You can see I'm joined once again by Team News and Ticks for our live show discussing all things Arsenal. Of course, we're going to talk about all the latest transfer stuff that is going on. Not too long. What we got now? About just over a week now to the end of the transfer window. So, we're going to talk all about that. I'm sure we'll discuss the weekend as well. Big game against Aston Villa coming up. Of course, first of all, it's been a while, mate. How's things going? All good?
Yeah, all good. I'm glad to actually have football back as much as transfer time and transfer window is exciting. I mean, obviously we're football fans first and foremost, so to get back to the game on Saturday, obviously I know you was there, just felt like going back home.
Yeah, it was nice, wasn't it? Sun was out, beers, 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday. Good way to kick off the season. Decent win as well, clean sheet. What did you make of it? I was really surprised because I loved it. I had a great day. Immediately, I went down the 12 pins. I think from about sort of 1 o'clock. I had a few beers and I just thoroughly enjoyed the day. I came out the stadium really happy. 2 really good goals, clean sheet, 3 points. And I was going home on the train. And I was just looking at the sort of reaction because obviously when I'm in the press box, I'm kind of judging the reaction of what everyone's saying because I've got social media open all the time and stuff like that. But when I'm in the stands, I'm not really looking at it. So it was when I was going home and I was just scrolling through. And I was like, what? So many people seem really upset about like the performance and everything like that. And I was really surprised because I thought it was, perfectly fine for an opening day. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, quite similar. As I said, I didn't think we were great, but it's
No.
opening day. I don't think, I mean, obviously this is with hindsight, I don't think anyone in the league looked good. I think it was just sort of trying to get the legs going again in theory. But everyone I spoke to in and around the ground was like, we got the job done. We was okay. We wasn't excellent. We definitely wasn't bad. And I was exactly the same as you. I didn't go online until a few hours after because I went for food and then had to get home. But it was people were going, "Oh, we were terrible. This player played terribly. This player's awful. I never want to see them again." And it was like, look, there was players I didn't think were excellent, but there was no one, and it was like, "Oh, this is terminal for their career. We shouldn't be seen again." From what I was watching, but yeah, I don't know if it's maybe because the other teams hadn't really played yet. That it was people judged it and they were expecting like an Arsenal with full tilt. But as I said, with hindsight, when you looked at every team in the league, I don't think anyone was impressive.
No, I don't think, like you said, I mean, it's coming off the back of a really big tournament summer. People are coming back late. I mean, the fact that Declan went off with cramp, Bakaya went off in the second half. Those players are clearly not 100% fit, and it's not. That's going to be the same in plenty of other clubs and teams across the country at the moment. So you're just not going to. No one's going to come firing out the blocks, I don't think, this season. I thought, look, I've sat there and seen some horrible opening day games before for watching Arsenal. So I was really happy with it. And I thought the first half played actually well. Second half definitely got a bit sloppy. I think people got tired and you could sort of sense before Bakaya's goal, wasn't it? It was getting a little bit edgy and you really wanted that protection of the second goal. But first off, I think there was a lot to like about that performance. They really, Wolves were camped in their half for the majority of that game. I thought Arsenal pressed well. Could easily have been more than one goal up at half time. And had that been the case, I don't think too many people would have been complaining after the game. So I think a lot to build on from that performance. It's certainly not setting the bar in terms of performances for this season, but it was a decent result and it wasn't the worst performance. And I think it gives us all something to take into Saturday because that's going to be a tricky game, isn't it?
Yeah, Saturday's tough. And I also think a bit of people being slightly unhappy with our transfer, or a lot unhappy with our transfer activity, comes into it. Because if we'd have made the signings that people wanted, even if they weren't ready to play yet, but you knew they was at the club, I think people would go, yeah, it's first day of the season, we've won 3 points, on we go. But because they're sort of unhappy in other areas, they're sort of projecting that on everything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Villa will be very tough, and it's an interesting one because in theory, obviously both times last year you went Kai left 8 and we dominated both games but lost them both. So it's like, do you go back to what dominated but didn't win, or do you stick with what you have? A lot of people don't really want to see Partey or Zinni at Villa Park, but then it's difficult. If you don't want Partey, you have to go Kai left 8. But people seem to want no Partey and Kai up top. It's like that's going to be difficult. I think people seem to think.
I think Partey starts, doesn't he? I think Partey will start. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a change at left back, depending on if he thinks Timber's fit enough to start the game and get through sort of 60, 70 minutes. It wouldn't surprise me if he changes there, given we've seen Villa target Zinchenko before in the last couple of games, but I think Partey starts. I didn't think Partey was that bad, but I spoke about this in my shows earlier on in the week. Again, I was kind of surprised. He did give the ball away a few times in that second half. You could see he sort of started to tire a little bit. But I didn't think he was that bad. And that was one of the things that really surprised me coming home, just how many people seem to be targeting him and his performance. Because I thought in the first half, again, there was quite a bit to like about what he did. And, I don't think long-term Partey will be a first-choice starter in this team this season once the Merino deal gets done. But I think he definitely plays against Aston Villa at the weekend.
See, I think he will go Kai left 8. I think he'll go. Yeah, I think he'll go Rice, Martin, Kai. Just because of their running power and their transitions. I mean, they kind of play a box midfield. McGinn technically plays off the left wing when you're looking at positions, but he tucks in so narrow. We've got Onana. There's pace and power there, and running power. So I think that they'll want it. The problem with Partey for me, and I was exactly the same as you. I was quite surprised by the criticism he got. But I think with him before, he used to sort of cover if you're talking width of the pitch, a 25 to 30 yard zone, and now he probably covers a 5 to 10. I think he's actually perfectly good in his little box, but his box is getting smaller and smaller, and it means we can get bypassed. And it also, the problem we have against them is if you're going to press high and then Partey is the deepest one, where he can't cover the ground like he used to, I think it does leave you quite exposed. And obviously they'll try and stretch. Watkins also wasn't fit, along with all the England boys, but they'll stretch the pitch with him, which he's very good at, which could make the midfield space a lot bigger than what we would want it to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about Partey like that. I mean, obviously he has his very, excellent skill set, and there's definitely no one better at still progressing the ball like he can from that deep midfield. But whereas he used to be able to get the ball, drive away from players, and he used to be able to recover the ball so well if out of possession and get back and stop runners, that's definitely diminishing as he gets older and as the injuries take their toll. He can't, if he gets beaten, for example, now he can't get back. We saw that. I remember the most classic example of it was when McTominay ran away from him at the game at Trafford in the last season, wasn't it? And he doesn't have that running capability now. And I keep sort of holding on to the fact, thinking maybe that will come back as the season progresses and he gets more minutes into his legs, because we know it does take Partey a while to get to his top level. But it's been a while now, and when you sort of take into account he's had a proper pre-season, he had the end of last season, he's had the start of this season, it still doesn't look like it's there. So I agree. I just wonder though, and we are going to get onto transfers, and lots of people have been asking in the questions. I can see them here. Loads of people are talking about it. So we will get onto that, of course, but just quickly on it. Last season, like you said, he went with Kai left 8 twice against Villa. And I don't think Arsenal played badly in either of those games, apart from maybe the second half of the game at the Emirates. But when you do that twice and you lose both games, can you really sort of revert back to it again and maybe expect anything different to happen? I don't know. I think that must be a big thing in his head going into Saturday's game.
Yeah, I was talking about this with someone the other day, and it's exactly that. It's like, do you do the thing that you think is right but didn't get the result, or do you change because you didn't get the result? And I wouldn't be surprised by either. As I said, I think he'll go with Kai in midfield. But when I get the team Saturday morning or whatever it is, and it's not that, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, what's he done? It's just, as I said, I can see it going either way, and I couldn't argue with anyone. Like, sometimes you see 11s online or someone say 11 and you think, what are you on about? There's no chance of that happening. This isn't that. This is my opinion. I think it's this. And if someone else thinks that, yeah, fair enough. It's all at the same level.
Yeah. I wasn't overly surprised by the team selection at the weekend. I did think Trossard would start. That was one thing that surprised me. It was in the 12 pins actually when the team news came through, and everyone was surprised there that he went Martinelli over Trossard. People have pointed out maybe he's done that ahead of this weekend to give Martinelli a run out, because we know Villa have got that really, really high line, and maybe sort of fancies Martinelli in that. So he wanted to get some proper minutes under his belt ahead of the game, which might well be the case. But I was surprised on Saturday that he went Martinelli over Trossard for the Wolves game.
To be honest, it was what I expected. The whole 11. I did flip flop a bit during the week, but then on Saturday morning, like people asking what I think the 11 was being, and what I thought it was what it ended up being. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that didn't surprise me at all. I think long term, Trossard ended the season excellently, but I think long term, you're a better team if you get Martinelli back up to anything like the form he was in. Not obviously season just gone, the one before.
Yeah. Well, there was some good signs from Martinelli in pre-season. So who did he score the winner against? It was
Man
United.
United.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
he looked
United.
really sharp.
He looked really sharp in that game, yeah. And I didn't think he played badly at the weekend either. Didn't really get too many sniffs at goal though, did he? So that'd be nice. A lot of people saying here, maybe Jorginho could start the game, but then other people are saying Jorginho not really an option for high tempo games. But I think that sort of argument, when we're seeing what Partey's doing at the moment and how he's playing, that sort of argument lessens a little bit, because it's not like Partey looks like he's better suited to high tempo games than Jorginho is at the moment. So some big calls to make.
Georgie also reads them a lot better. So where I say Partey can't cover that 30-yard zone anymore, the natural would be to say, Jorginho can't, but he's sort of 10 yards ahead through reading of the game.
But he seems to be behind Thomas now in the pecking order. Given how last season ended and even this season, Mikel seems pretty firm on the fact that Thomas is ahead of Jorginho now. If the pair of them are fit, he's been going Thomas rather than Georgie, which I think is a bit of a surprise. I kept thinking Jorginho would come back into the side towards the end of last season, but he never did. And obviously Thomas seems to be starting ahead of him this season. So he seems to have a bit of a sort of pecking order at the moment, and Jorginho's doesn't seem to be at the top of it. Right, should we move on to some transfers now? I've got so many people have been talking about it. I remember the last time we chatted was, well, I don't know, it must have been about 3 weeks ago. It was before I went away, wasn't it? And nothing's really moved on since that. And I think the last time we talked, I would never have predicted that Arsenal would have done nothing really significant by the next time we chat. But that seems to be the case. We're still waiting for Merino to be done. I mean, I'm sure it is going to be done, but we're still waiting for it. This week, I was told at the start of this week was going to be a big week in terms of that. And it seems like we're edging towards a conclusion, but it hasn't happened yet. Obviously, Eddie looks like he is now very, very close to moving to Nottingham Forest. So there's lots to discuss. What are your thoughts at the moment before we get into the questions about how things are shaping up with 10 days or less than 10 days of the transfer window remaining?
To be honest, I'm so bored of the Merino transfer.
Yeah.
Like, it's dragged on for so long. And I know I said, so not Friday, just gone, the one before, I was told by someone at the club that they expected it to get it done and completed last week. And then obviously that didn't happen. I mean, you've seen, like, and I'm not saying these people are the be all and end all, but I think it was like July 31st where Fabrizio said Merino to Arsenal was like super close. And we're now 3 weeks on and it's still super close. It's just, yeah, it's a really annoying one. But yeah, I mean, I would have expected a bit more by now, if I'm honest. Also in terms of outs, because we've not really, obviously Emil's gone, but that was on the cards for a while.
Yeah.
Hopefully Eddie does get done. But we're still, I think we've been a bit quiet on both fronts, really. Obviously Ramsdale's still there as of now. Eddie's still there. Kirior still there. And look, some of these players might not end up leaving, but it's Nelson as well, still there, and not really too much talk surrounding him. It's just, I mean, look, they've obviously not been doing nothing, but you can see people's point when you get these people that sort of moaning on Twitter going, "Oh, Arsenal just doing nothing." In one, of course, that's not the case, but you can see where that point of view comes from.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of work for Edu and his team to do between now and deadline day. I mean, I'm expecting, all accounts, everything we're hearing, Merino is now very, very close. And I laugh when I say that because he seems to be saying it for so long. But it does seem like that, obviously the president has come over to get this deal done, and talks been ongoing, over the last couple of days to find an agreement. I can understand Sociedad's point of view in terms of holding out for what they're trying to hold out for, but they're not in the strongest of bargaining positions because of his contract, obviously. So I can maybe understand why Arsenal are like, well, hold on a little bit. We're not. Let's bring that number down a little bit. But I'm sure a compromise will be reached, and it doesn't look like it's going to get done in time for him to, of course, have anything to do with this weekend's game. And probably you would think, even if he does sign, in the next couple of days, I doubt we'd see him until after the international break. We've obviously got the Brighton game Saturday week, but would he come straight in and be involved? We're seeing what Mikel's doing with Calafiori at the moment and letting him bed in. So any new signings that do arrive between now and the end of the window, you'd think it's going to be after the international break that they make any sort of impact in this team. I've had some questions. I mean, there's so many questions here about Merino. There was one, I'm trying to find it again. He was saying, I can't find it. That's it. does it mean that Rice will go back to 6 and Merino will be the main sort of pick for 8 to Havertz up top if this does get done? And I imagine this is Mikel's thinking. When you look at what he signed Havertz for originally in that left 8 role, and it didn't work. You know, he did okay, but it didn't work. Obviously, he's much better playing in that central striker role, and he's making much more of an impact in the team. But you look at the strengths that Merino has, and you think he's sort of tailor-made almost for that 8 role that Mikel wanted Havertz to be. His strength in the air is, and he's naturally left-sided, of course. We can see how good he is getting into the back post and getting on the end of crosses. Technically, he's very good. He's a strong runner. I can't really see him coming in, Arsenal spending that sort of money, and then him not being first choice once he's bedded in. Do you agree? Do you think Declan drops back to 6?
Yeah, well, when we was first linked with him, and I'm pretty sure this was back in June, I spoke to someone at the club and said, I was a bit cheeky really, because I was trying to get confirmation of the deal, and I said, "Oh, what would be the thinking? Moreno 8 and Rice 6?" And they said, "Oh, Rice will be playing a hybrid. So if he's with Moreno, yes, he'll be a 6. If he's obviously with any of the others, he'll be playing an 8." But you'd imagine that, given first choice for strongest games, it would be Rice at 6 with Merino at 8. But they did make it clear that Rice will still be deployed in both roles across the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And you saw that goal that Havertz scored at the weekend, didn't you? The Saka cutting in, whipping that ball in, Havertz getting their near post. But you imagine if you got sort of Rice and Merino once he's settled in, coming in sort of behind towards the back post. Yeah, so that could be a real weapon, I think, for Arsenal. They're going to be a very strong, tall, physical team when you add Merino into that mix and you look at his strengths, and that sort of delivery from Saka could be a real weapon going forward.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it time and time again, but it's always to the back post, like deep back post. And it feels like, and I'm probably wrong, but it feels like the first time we've seen something happen sort of at the front post from it. But as you said, if we've got both runners, teams have to be super cautious because they can't gamble on one or the other. And I actually think the Kai goal might have come from Wolves been working on that. When Saka cuts in like that, the ball does tend to go back post, because Sarr was in absolutely no man's land. I don't know what he was doing. But if they'd been working on the ball was likely going back post, he's probably taken that aggressive approach, tried to be on the front foot, and obviously Kai's nipped in front of him. Yeah. But yeah, if we have both options, it just teams defending won't be able to prepare for it, essentially.
Yeah, I think when you look at that goal, was it Gabriel was still up because it was from a corner, free kick, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Zinchenko had worked it back out to Saka, and so I think there was one extra body in the box that maybe confused Wolves a little bit. And yeah, sort of if you transfer Gabriel out of there and add Merino into that could be the another sort of way that Arsenal deal with it, cause teams problems, because they're going to have maybe an extra runner in the box with maybe Rice, whoever, Havertz, Merino, so it's a good weapon to have. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see more and more of that. Just on Eddie, obviously we're waiting for that deal to potentially get done now. It's looking very close to happening. 30 million. That was, while I was away, I saw lots of criticism for Arsenal sort of not just agreeing to Marseille's offer for Eddie. It now looks like they're going to get, a fairly significant chunk of money more for him from Nottingham Forest. I think this is a good move from Arsenal, and I said it at the time before this Forest bid sort of came in, that you can't just keep undervaluing players, can you? On one hand, you always get people slagging off Arsenal for underselling, but then others will be like, well, just get rid of Nketiah, take what's on offer. But I think in today's market, Eddie is worth more than what Marseille are offering. So I'm glad that Arsenal stood their ground on that. And yes, it was a risk because they might have ended up not being able to sell him before the end of the window. But I think they must have been pretty confident when they turned that money down that there was going to be enough interest for them to make more on him elsewhere. And 30 million, I think, is a pretty fair. If it does end up being 30 million, all in with some add-ons there, I think that's a pretty good deal for Arsenal.
Yeah, Arsenal was so conscious of that bad selling reputation, and they're trying to fix that at all costs. And it may be with a player we end up sort of losing out, or them not going when we needed them to or wanted them to. But they're really trying to fix that reputation, essentially. And if they have a value on a player, they're going to try and get it or very close. I think the worry with Eddie is that most of us don't really want him here. So people just wanted him out, and they were worried that might not be that might be the final offer for him, and no one else would come in, and then we'd have been stuck with him, and that would have been a problem. But it definitely did undervalue him. But it's like when people say, "Oh, why did we bother giving Eddie a new contract in the first place and all that money?" But if you assume he's on 100k a week, I know the reports between 100 and 120. So it's been a year. So it's cost us 5.2 million, but we've made 30 essentially if this sale goes through.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to look at it as an investment. It's brilliant. Like, we have to look at the long game when we moan about why has he offered this player a contract, that player a contract. Long term, it looks like it's going to net us 25 million.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll wait and see what happens with Reece Nelson, but that could be the same. Although it's looking a little bit more difficult when it comes to potentially selling Nelson. The Spiz here says, is the Eddie sale to allow Merino? Can we expect another addition after Merino? I'm worried that Calafiori and Merino won't be enough to bridge the gap. I mean, if the window does end up just being Calafiori, Merino, and potentially a Ramsdale replacement, if Ramsdale does go, do you think, how would you feel about that? I think it's definitely one player short if it does just end up being that window. In answer to the question, can we expect another addition after Merino? I can't see it right now and say definitely that it will happen, but I still think Arsenal will be in the market for another player should this deal go through. I don't think it's necessarily just Merino and that's it. I think they will be in the market for another player. Eddie's sale will help potentially do that, but they're not going to panic. If they can't find the right player, they're not going to go and do it. So that's only the way I can really answer that. But do you think it would be enough? Would you be confident that Arsenal could chase down and actually overtake Man City this season if an attacker doesn't come in after the Merino deal?
First of all, I do think there'll be another one. But even if there's not, to answer the question, I do think it's enough. And this isn't me being ultra positive, but we were bad pretty much between August and December last year. And obviously finished the season like a train, how we did. And we was only, 2 points short. If we recreate our second half of the season form in the first season, it's more than enough, and I'd be very confident in us winning. If someone said you're going to play the same level as you did January to May throughout the whole season, I'd be super confident in winning the league, and I'd be amazed if we didn't. So, is it as glamorous as we expected? No. Do we want more? Yes, and we still want more. But I think to bridge the gap, I think people are sort of looking at the gap really, really wasn't that big. And it came with a lot of horrible performances in the first half of the season. There was even games we won where it was terrible. I mean, no disrespect to Luton, but we went life and death with Luton and took a 96th, 97th minute winner. We was horrible at home to Tottenham, got the draw. Horrible at home to Fulham, got the draw. Obviously horrible away to Fulham and lost, and deservedly so. Newcastle away, maybe unlucky to lose 1-0, but we definitely didn't deserve to win it. So you're talking the margins so fine that we just need to turn essentially one of those performances round, and that is the bridge. Not only the gap, not only bridged but overtaken.
You say that though, you do have to just turn one performance around, but then you've also got to repeat what you did that last season, and that's going to all the big teams and not losing. You know, that's having that record against the top 6 home and away that Arsenal had last season, which was unbelievable. And so you've got to repeat that as well as just sort of changing one of the bad results around. So yeah,
I'm talking more on level. If we keep you might not get all them positive results, but if we keep up that level across 38 games, or as many of the 38 games as possible, I would be confident in winning the league. And that's not me sitting here saying I'm happy with the transfer window, it's all we needed. As I said, I would prefer more, but I just think the gap people talking about we need to bridge is a lot smaller than what people are making it out to be.
Yeah, City are obviously on the verge of getting Gundogan back, which just gives me nightmare flashbacks of the 2022-23 run-in when he just turned into just the most clutch footballer you're ever going to find. And I was quite happy to see the back of him on the back of that season. Now he's obviously coming back, obviously a little bit older, but he's going to improve them, no doubt, I would say. What are your thoughts on him coming back to the Premier League?
Yeah, very, very good signing for them. Gives them more depth. One of my friends said to me the other day, I'm not too worried about it because their midfield starting three will probably still be KDB, Bernardo, Rodri. And I was like, but the Gundogan is interchangeable for 2 of those 3, and he's definitely the next choice. For me, he's better than Kovacic, although Kovacic did have a good game the other day. So it's like they're adding someone of that caliber as their next option who's also interchangeable. It's not like they wouldn't be worried to play him. He's not like the next option that's a million miles off the level. He's arguably better than some of their first choice options. I'm not. it doesn't move the needle in how good I think they are. I think they're unbelievable either way, but I do think it's a good signing for them.
Yeah, so do I. What do you make on Patino? Dominic has asked a question, keen on your thoughts on the Patino deal, any intel the level of sell-on clause. I haven't found out the exact sell-on clause, but I have been told it is big and potentially over 30%, which I would hope it would be, because I think the 1 million fees, I just think it's really low. But it was interesting. I spent yesterday, after that this story came out, I spent yesterday talking to a lot of people inside the sort of industry, some agents I know, and just to gauge their opinion on the deal. I was like, what do you make of 1 million for Patino? Because I think it feels really, really low. And I was just a lot more interested to speak to the people who are probably have a much better sort of professional opinion on what market value is for players in this current market. And a lot of them, to be fair, were just like, well, no, it's maybe a little bit low, but it is around the figure I would expect for him because of his contract status, because there hasn't been any significant interest from clubs who have got a little bit of money. So, high-end championship clubs or Premier League over here. The fact, he's gone to the second division over in Spain. And they were also pointing to the fact that it was a pretty big sell-on clause. And so you could get money further down the line for that. But I still look at it. I mean, I just saw Liverpool have agreed to sell Bobby Clark to, I think
Leipzig.
No, it's not Leipzig, is it? It's the other Red Bull team, Salzburg, I think.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I just saw Red Bull. Assumed it was Leipzig, to be honest.
No, it's Pep Linders, isn't it? It was obviously Klopp's assistant. And they get about 10 million for him, and he played about 10 games, albeit in the senior team of Liverpool. And I think Patino's played about 77 games in the Championship over the last 2 years. Not been world-beating spells. He had a really good time at Blackpool initially, and then it died down a little bit. He had a decent enough start at Swansea, and then they changed the manager. He didn't really get much game time, but he still clocked up over 70 Championship appearances in the last couple of years. 20, I still feel 1 million is just low. And even with the people who I very much respect for their opinions on it, who tend to think it was about right. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Were you surprised at that fee?
Not at all. I thought it was about right. You go say to 70 odd Championship games, but didn't stand out. That looked about his level. It didn't look too much for him, but no one was screwed. It's obvious that no one's come in off the back of that and gone, "Oh, we have to sign him." There's been literally no. I'm actually, in all honesty, surprised we got him out, because there's been nothing. Like no real interest. Obviously, last year someone briefed Ornstein that he wouldn't be going on loan and only a permanent would do, and then nothing, no interest, so he had to go on loan.
That was definitely the plan at the start of the window, was he was going permanently. But yeah, agreed. There was
no interest. So the market does dictate in certain times, and I know Arsenal fans have a lot of love for Charlie, and I think quite overrate Charlie. But I was told sizable sell on. I don't know a number, but I was just sort of quite happy to see that we'd got him out of the door, and that you maybe could have gone a bit more, 1.5, 2 million. I sort of would have expected, but it was in and around the area I expected. And obviously, when you've got a lack of, because there wasn't competition, they could offer whatever they wanted, really.
Mm-hmm. Quite a few people are in the comments here asking about Sterling and whether we think that would be a good deal. Obviously, there's been no links to Arsenal. I don't expect there's going to be any links to Arsenal, because I can't see Arsenal going anywhere near this. I'll probably say that and end up with egg on my face in about a week's time. But if suddenly it emerged that Arsenal were sniffing around the market opportunity that is Raheem Sterling right now, would you think that as a potential good deal?
No, not really. I mean, obviously wages would come into it. If for example, this isn't going to happen, I'm making stuff up, but if he comes in on sort of a level of wages that Reece Nelson's on, and you got rid of Reece and the transfer fee was respectable, you'd say it can't be a bad deal. And there's not saying it's an excellent one, but I can't see him fitting into us. There's question that obviously his age, he's played a lot of football, he's got a lot of miles on the clock because he started very young. Obviously Arteta knows him, likes him. But yeah, it'd be a long way for me to say it'd be a good deal. It will be interesting though, because Chelsea's kind of trying to insist on getting the book value back, or what they owe on the books for most of their players. Mm-hmm. And I think Raheem's still got something like 20 to 30 million they owe on the books. But now with Maresca's done what he's done, I actually think he's put Chelsea in a horrible position, Maresca, by saying we essentially don't want these 15 players, because everyone's going to go, oh, fine. what
They were mad
we're
for it.
going
He
to get.
basically said, "I don't care about all these other players." It's like, yeah, everyone's talking about our big squad. I've only got a squad of 21. It's like, yeah, you have, but that's because the other half of that squad has basically been banished to the other side of the training ground. They are still there. The club are
Yeah,
going
and
to
on high wages. Like when
yeah,
before Raheem come out and said he wanted to go permanently, not a loan. For Chelsea to recover the book value of Sterling, including wages on a year's loan, the club would have to like a team would have to fork up 26 million with his
mhm,
wages about 15 and the year's depreciation about 10, 11. It's like that's crazy, and it'd be really interesting to see what Chelsea end up accepting. And I actually hope, just to annoy Chelsea, that's because Saudi's the only place I can really see that would offer any form of decent money, and I hope he refuses it, and then see Chelsea get stuck on what they do.
yeah, yeah. There's lots of talk about Lookman at the moment, isn't there? From Italy, I saw some stories emerging out of Italy that Arsenal were in for Lookman. The money on that I was seeing for it. I mean, I haven't heard anything on it yet to back that up, so I won't. I can't say
I think
anything
it's
more on it.
already been debunked.
Yeah, it did. It did. It was one of those ones that I just saw it and just thought that's just surely not right. The money was about 50 million plus Kivior or something they were reporting, weren't they? Immediately
Well,
when you
it
saw
was weird because I'm not sure, is it Alfredo Padal, whatever, the journalist who reported it, and everyone was going on as if it was a big deal, but Graham Bailey actually reported it 2 days earlier,
it.
and it just didn't get any traction at all. Not the fees, but he just said Arsenal and Liverpool were looking. But I think that came of, so apparently Lookman at the weekend said he wasn't ready for the squad. And then so obviously transfer talk started as it does, and then he missed training yesterday, which is when Alfredo's piece came out. But he trained again today by all accounts. So I think he's angling for a new contract, and they're playing the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's a decent player. Lookman's obviously had it coming off the back of a fantastic season last season. He's really built his reputation on the back of that, and he plays in a position that Arsenal definitely need potential strengthening the squad. So I wouldn't be overly against it, but certainly for the figures that I saw mentioned yesterday, it just seemed a little bit too high for what he would be coming into the squad to do. But I mean, again, there's so many in here in the comments about sort of signing a winger. If Arsenal do move for another attacker, which you said, you expect Arsenal probably will try and get something done. I tend to agree. I think that even if Merino comes in, even after Merino comes in, I wouldn't sit right now and rule out Arsenal doing anything when it comes to signing an attacker, and that would probably be more of a winger. I've not heard any names yet. What were your thoughts on Pedro Neto? Because I was always of the opinion, again, more of a hunch than any information that I actually had, was that Arsenal would probably go in for Neto before the end of the window was out. Obviously, that didn't happen. Chelsea got that deal done. It's the first signing of the 5,099,000 that Chelsea have made that I've actually been jealous of, because I just think he's a fantastic player, Neto. I know all the injury stuff, blah, 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 but I think he's a fantastic player. And I would have loved him at Arsenal, especially when you don't have to play him every single week and put minutes into his legs every single week, because you can rotate and manage his load, which would hopefully stop the injuries or certainly curtail the injuries a little bit. So what are your thoughts on potentially adding another winger, and were you surprised to see Neto go to Chelsea?
Yeah, as I said, I do think we will add a winger. On Neto, I know he was sort of low down our list, but he was someone that was obviously being monitored. Our value, we sort of valued him at 45. I think that's the number we thought he would be worth, and obviously end up going for more than that. Not a million miles more than that, to be fair, if you include add-ons. But obviously the whole deal was done with Mendes. It was a weird one. So I think even if we had wanted to hijack it, so to speak, I don't think it would have been possible. But am I jealous? I like him, and I did want him, but then I'd probably stop short of saying like, oh, I'm gutted Chelsea got him. But I would have been happy if he came in, and I know not everyone thought the same. As I said, I like his skill set.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, good signing for them. But if he was, say, third or fourth on our list, and we feel there's chances of getting the others that either suit us more or better value for money or can play a full season, because we know what Arteta's like with injury records in general, then you can't moan if you miss out on your fourth choice, as long as you get one of the other ones. I think we'll find out come deadline day. If we get no one, we'll go, oh, we probably are a bit more jealous of that Chelsea move than we are right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's still a lot to go. We've got the people are saying, 2 out of 4 window, a 2 out of 10 window, 4 out of 10 window. If Merino does happen and nothing else, that's sort of it. Aside from some decent sales potentially for Eddie something. How would you sort of rate Arsenal's window? I know it's tough to do this right now because we've still got 8 days or whatever it is left to do. But yeah, I'd be looking at the sort of 5 out of 10. Good for selling, but in terms of incomings, I still feel like Arsenal would have left a little bit out there.
Yeah, I'd be quite similar, 5 to 6 range. Like, could have done more, but we've added players in theory that will contribute to the first team in if Merino gets done and Calafiori, and not really lost anyone that we want apart from Emil. But if you look at his minutes last season, didn't get it. And also we've got to add Ethan in. I know it's not a new signing, but I feel like we would have bolstered our level. Yeah, it's not glamorous, and yes, I feel like we could have done more, but like, I'm not on board with these people that are saying sort of 2 out of 10 windows, because like, if you then go and get, you know, a decent-ish winger, they'll go, oh, it's an 8 out of 10 window. And so the gap between a 2 and an 8 isn't one player unless it's an absolute megastar.
Mm-hmm. Lots of people in there saying Mudryk and go back in for him before the end of the window. I'd be surprised if that happens. I mean, we know that Arsenal absolutely wanted him, but we've talked about book value and Chelsea trying to get book value for players. It would make no sense really for them to.
Yeah, I think it's 65 million or something they'd won on him.
Yeah, so I just can't see it. And then you've got even sort of loan people are saying, you know, again, I just don't really see it making too much sense for them to do something like that. Look, I think that's it. I mean, I've had lots of people in there say, you're not really giving us any new information. It's like, well, there isn't really that much new information to give at the moment, isn't it? It's just a discussion about all things Arsenal, and it's been a pretty slow window. And yeah, hopefully it does pick up in the next 8 days or so. I know, sort of reading these comments, everyone hopes it will, and maybe it will. So we'll have to wait and see on it. We are going to carry on this discussion over on Team News and Tix's Patreon, which you can find the link to down below in the description. If you want to head over there and listen to it, that will be out fairly soon after that. But until next week, when Team News and Tips will be joining me once again, thank you very much. I'll be putting out Inside Arsenal Extra Time. Myself and James Benj are going to sit down and record a little bit later on as we really focus on that game against Aston Villa as well. So if you want to get involved in that, you know what to do in the comments. Start with Extra Time, put your question in, and we will round some of them up and discuss them in today's show. Until then, have a very good day, everyone.
I just jump in with something I forgot quickly?
Go for it, mate.
So I've tweeted it, but I'm doing a pre-match event before the Leicester at home game with Nigel Winterburn. So tickets are on sale now. You can find my Twitter. I'll retweet the post later, but it's 10 minutes walk from the Emirates. So we'll finish at 2 for a 3 o'clock kickoff. So you'll get to the game in plenty of time. And it's just a chat, Q&A with Nigel Winterburn, opportunity to get stuff signed and photo opportunities and stuff like that.
Sounds good. Cool. Well, I hope that goes well, mate. And yeah, I'll catch up with you again very, very soon.
Cheers.
See you later. Bye-bye.